What if the most powerful meeting in a CEO's career wasn't with a billionaire, but with a 10-year-old girl holding a crumpled resume and a single word, please? This is the unforgettable story of how one little girl, Maya Johnson, walked into a corporate tower in New Orleans and walked out having changed everything, for her mother, for herself, and for the woman who thought she had nothing left to learn. Stay with us until the end, because this isn't just a story, it's a wake-up call, a reminder that compassion can shatter routine, that bravery doesn't wear a suit, and that sometimes the smallest voice in the room is the one that speaks loudest. Watch now if you believe love still changes lives. Share if you believe showing up still matters. Subscribe for more real stories that prove humanity isn't lost. It's just waiting to be heard. Some mornings slip by so quietly, you'd think the world forgot to make noise. That morning wasn't one of them. In the heart of New Orleans, where the river hums low and traffic grumbles before dawn, the 37th floor of the Heartwarming Tower gleamed. In the early light, Olivia Hart had already been at her desk for an hour. Her day, like always, began with ritual precision. A triple-shot espresso sat untouched beside a sleek monitor, a towering stack of contracts to her left, and an open digital calendar ticking away the seconds. She was not the kind of woman who let the city's rhythm distract her. She moved to the pulse of something tighter, sharper: achievement, results, order. At 41, Olivia was a titan of technology. She had risen from the sweltering streets of the lower Ninth Ward to the top of the city's skyline, brick by metaphorical brick. Heartwarming wasn't just a tech company, it was her legacy. Every floor, every innovation, every employee, a direct reflection of her precision. But that morning, something didn't line up. At exactly 8:07 a.m., a soft knock broke her focus. She glanced up, expecting her assistant to update her on the investor breakfast running 5 minutes late. Instead, Janine, usually composed and crisp, looked hesitant, even pale. "Olivia," she said, voice barely above a whisper, "there's someone here to see you." Without looking away from her screen, Olivia replied, "Unless it's on the calendar, reschedule it." Janine hesitated. "It's not an appointment. It's a child." Olivia paused, her fingers stopped mid-type. "A child. She said she has a resume." Olivia's brows lifted, ever so slightly. "Is this a prank?" Janine gave a nervous shake of her head. "I don't think so." Before Olivia could form another word, the office door pushed open wider. A little girl stepped inside. She was maybe 8, but small for her age. Her skin was a deep, beautiful bronze. She wore a faded uniform blouse tucked into a skirt that had seen better days, and sneakers that didn't quite match. But what caught Olivia's eye wasn't the clothes. It was the way the girl stood, shoulders back, chin high, eyes steady, like she wasn't here for charity, like she was here on business. Nuance. One hand, she held a piece of paper, wrinkled and folded into perfect quarters. She crossed the room, stopping just shy of Olivia's immaculate desk, and without blinking, she placed the paper down gently. Then, looking Olivia directly in the eye, she said, "I need a job." There was no tremor in her voice, no hesitation, just 5 words delivered like a mission statement. Olivia didn't respond. She couldn't, not immediately, because something about that moment, so utterly impossible, felt real. The girl stood there, silent, waiting, as if this meeting, this ask, this office was exactly where she was meant to be. Olivia picked up the paper. It was a handwritten resume, scribbled in looping, uneven print. "I'm a fast learner. I'm good at helping. I don't make noise. I know how to clean." And at the bottom, circled in a shaky heart, was a single word: "Please." Olivia looked back up, her gaze softening despite herself. "What's your name?" she asked. "Maya," the girl answered. "Maya Johnson." "And how old are you, Maya?" 8, Maya said, then quickly added, "But I'll be 9 in December." Olivia set the resume down slowly. Her brain, usually a flurry of analysis and decisions, felt unusually quiet. No graphs, no metrics, just one question. Why? So she asked it. Maya, why do you need a job? The girl's reply came fast, like she'd practiced it. My mama's sick and the shelter says we can't stay if she doesn't get better. Her tone didn't falter. No dramatics, just the facts. Olivia blinked. She had heard 1,000 pitches from professionals twice Maya's age, and none had hit her like this. Janine was still frozen at the doorway, silent, watching. So was the room, soundless except for the low murmur of traffic below the glass walls. Olivia leaned forward slightly. And, why me? She asked. Why come here? Maya didn't hesitate. I saw you in the newspaper. They said you build things. She pointed to the skyline visible behind Olivia's desk. Big things. Her eyes held firm. But can you fix little things too? And just like that, Olivia Hart, CEO, strategist, and woman of steel, felt something stir that she hadn't felt in years. Not guilt, not pity, something deeper, something she didn't have a name for yet. She leaned back, looked again at the resume, and realized this wasn't a joke, this wasn't a mistake. This was the beginning of something she hadn't seen coming, a meeting not on her calendar, but maybe the most important one she'd ever have. For a moment, Olivia didn't say anything. She just looked at the little girl sitting across from her, composed, quiet, and impossibly still. The city buzzed outside, but in that room, everything had gone still. Maya Johnson had brought the world in with her, and now Olivia had to decide what to do with it. She leaned forward slowly, her elbows resting on the desk. Tell me, Maya, she said gently. What happened to your mama? Maya glanced down at her shoes. There was no nervous shifting, no fidgeting, just a pause. Then she looked up, calm, direct. She got sick last year. Olivia nodded, giving her space. She used to sing, Maya added. She sang in the quarter at that place with the red bricks. Olivia knew the one, a small jazz club tucked behind a bakery on St. Peter Street. Maya's voice dropped slightly. She had a pretty voice, the kind that makes people stop talking. She sang every weekend. But then her throat started hurting. She got tired, a lot. She said it was just the heat, but she started missing sets. Then she stopped singing altogether. She tried to get help, but the clinic said it was something deep inside. She didn't tell me everything, but I heard the words. She blinked. Tumor. Malignant. No insurance. The words landed like bricks. Olivia felt them in her chest. Maya wasn't supposed to know those terms. No child should have to memorize those syllables. Maya continued, voice steady. She used to be strong. She used to carry me when I fell, asleep on the bus. Now I help her get up the stairs. We had to leave our apartment. We went to a friend's couch, then the shelter. She looked down again. They said we can only stay for 30 days. And the medicine costs more than we have. Olivia felt a knot tighten in her throat. And she doesn't know you're here? She asked. Maya shook her head. She would have said no. She doesn't like asking for help. But I saw your picture in the paper. You were holding shovel, breaking ground for a new school. She said you were one of the good ones. So I looked up your building. I walked here after breakfast. Her small fingers gripped the edge of the chair. I thought, maybe you fix things. The air in the room grew thicker, not heavy from heat, but from truth, from the weight of a child doing what grown-ups couldn't. Janine, still by the door, wiped at her eyes. She wasn't the crying type, but something about the matter-of-fact way Maya spoke, it broke people. Olivia leaned back. Her mind raced. Every instinct she'd built over decades in business told her to compartmentalize, to refer the case to HR or PR or legal, but she didn't move. Not yet. Instead, she asked, Maya, do you eat breakfast every day? Maya shrugged. Sometimes. Olivia swallowed. What would you do with a job? The little girl tilted her head. I'd clean offices. I could water plants. I'm good with papers. I could make coffee. I saw how Janine makes yours. Janine let out a surprised breath, part laugh, part sob. I don't cry in front of people, Maya added softly, but I do cry sometimes. Olivia nodded slowly. She remembered being that young, alone in the city, holding everything inside, like it might spill and ruin everything. She stood and walked to the window. From here you could see the Mississippi winding like a song through the city. She stared out at it, then turned back. "What's your mama's name?" she asked. Lillian. Lillian Johnson. Olivia closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, something had shifted. She walked back to her desk, sat down, and reached for her phone. "Maya," she said, "do you want to show me where she is?" Maya blinked, then nodded, a small, hopeful nod. "She's at the shelter on Claiborne, room 14. She sleeps a lot now. But I think she'd like you." And with that, Olivia Hart, woman of meetings, mergers, and milestones, stood up. She grabbed her coat from the hook behind the door. "Janine," she said, voice firm, "cancel my morning." Janine's mouth opened, then shut. She just nodded. Maya hopped off the chair, adjusting the straps of her backpack. Together, they walked out of the office, not to another conference room, not to another strategy call, but toward something real, something Olivia hadn't faced in a long time, a problem that couldn't be solved with a spreadsheet, a life that needed more than charity. It needed presence. It needed someone who showed up. And on that morning, Olivia Hart did something no one expected. She followed an 8-year-old girl down to the street and into the heart of a story that was about to change them both forever. The streets of New Orleans always hum with something. Music, heat, stories. This morning, Olivia Hart was finally listening. Maya walked with a quiet determination, her backpack bouncing slightly with each step. They passed brass musicians on the corner, a streetcar rumbling in the distance. Tourists were already lining up for beignets, oblivious to the small miracle unfolding just a block away. Olivia stayed a step behind, watching Maya navigate the sidewalk like she owned it, like she had walked this path before, many times. They crossed Claiborne Avenue, where the buildings got older, the paint faded and the air thicker. Maya turned down a narrow side street. "There it is," she said, pointing. The shelter was a squat brick building tucked between two closed storefronts. The sign out front read, "The Magdalene House," peeling letters over flaking paint. Olivia stared at it. It looked nothing like the places she was used to visiting. No polished floors, no glass walls, just metal doors, dusty windows, and the faint smell of damp paper. Maya reached for the buzzer. A woman's voice crackled through the speaker. "Magdalene House. Who's there?" "It's Maya," she replied, her voice small but sure. "And I brought someone." There was a pause, then a loud buzz. The door clicked open. They stepped into a dim hallway lined with plastic chairs and faded flyers. A receptionist looked up. From behind a scratched plexiglass window, her eyes landed on Olivia and widened slightly. Clearly, business suits weren't common here, but she didn't ask questions, just nodded. "Room 14, Maya said again. They walked down the hall. Each door had a number scrawled in black marker on white tape. When they reached the last one on the right, Maya stopped. Her hand hovered near the knob. "She sleeps a lot," she said quietly. "Sometimes she doesn't wake up when I talk to her." Olivia crouched slightly, trying to meet her eyes. "Then we'll just sit with her," she said gently. Maya nodded, then pushed the door open. Inside, the room was no bigger than a supply closet. A narrow bed took up most of the space. On it lay a woman, thin, motionless, her skin a shade too pale, her hair pulled into a messy bun. An IV pole stood beside her, taped tubes running to her arm. A stack of old sheet music sat on a crate by the wall. This was Lillian Johnson, the jazz singer, the mother, the woman Maya was trying to save. Olivia stepped inside slowly, unsure of where to stand. Maya walked straight to the bed and took her mother's hand. "She's real tired today," she said. "I gave her tea before I left. I think she liked it." Her voice was light, like she was explaining a dream. Lillian's chest rose and fell slowly, her breath audible, fragile. Olivia moved to the far corner, letting the silence settle. She wasn't used to this kind of stillness, this kind of pain. She looked at the cracked walls, the chipped paint, the plastic water jug on the floor, and she realized this wasn't just poverty, it was being forgotten. She walked over to the crate of sheet music and picked up the top page. It was handwritten, lyrics and chords scribbled in blue ink. Title read, Sweet River Blues. She ran a finger over the faded notes, then turned to Maya. Your mama wrote this? Maya nodded. She used to write songs after dinner. Sometimes she'd sing them just for me. She said music makes you brave. Olivia swallowed hard. She was right, she said softly. They stood in silence a moment longer. Then Olivia took out her phone, not to check emails, not to scroll headlines. She tapped her physician's contact. I need a favor, she said when he picked up. Immediate. Private clinic, end-stage diagnosis. She's got a kid. She glanced at Maya, still holding her mother's hand. She deserves more time. Her voice didn't shake. She wasn't asking, she was ordering. By the time she ended the call, arrangements were already in motion. An ambulance was on standby, a room prepared, staff notified. Maya looked up. Are they going to help her? Olivia nodded. We're going to help her. Maya's lips parted slightly, but she didn't smile. Not yet. Instead, she looked at her mother and whispered something only Lillian could hear. Olivia didn't ask what it was. It wasn't for her to know. She just stepped outside to give them a moment. In the hallway, the receptionist gave her a curious glance. I've seen a lot of folks come and go, the woman said. But I ain't never seen a CEO walk in here holding a little girl's hand. Olivia didn't respond. She didn't have the words. But inside her chest, something unfamiliar stirred. Not guilt, not obligation. Something closer to a vow. When she returned to the room, Maya had placed the sheet music on the bed beside her mother. Even if she can't sing no more, she said, I want her to have it. Olivia sat beside her. We'll bring it with us, and we'll bring you both somewhere safe. Maya nodded slowly, and for the first time that morning she let herself lean against Olivia's side. Just a little, like maybe, just maybe. She didn't have to carry the whole world alone anymore. The ride to the clinic was quiet, not because there was nothing to say, but because sometimes silence carries more weight than words. Maya sat in the back seat of Olivia's car, her backpack hugged tight to her chest. Her eyes stared out the window, watching buildings blur into motion. Next to her, Lillian lay in a stretcher, a soft blanket covering her legs, the sheet music tucked under her arm like a memory she refused to let go. Olivia rode in the front seat, her voice low as she gave the driver directions. Her mind wasn't on emails, not on investors, not on the board. It was on the woman behind her and the little girl who had walked into her office and cracked something open. When they reached the clinic, not one of the usual public ones, but a private facility run by a foundation Olivia secretly funded, the staff was already waiting. Doctors, nurses, specialists. They didn't ask questions. They followed Olivia's lead. Because when Olivia Hart made a call, people moved. But this time, it wasn't for a merger or a media pitch. It was for one mother and one child. Maya held Olivia's hand tightly as they walked through the glass doors. Inside, the air was cool. The walls painted soft earth tones and everything smelled like lavender and clean linens. It didn't feel like a hospital. It felt like a second chance. Lillian was wheeled gently into a private suite. Machines were connected. Vitals monitored. Doctors spoke in hushed tones. Maya didn't say a word. She just sat beside her mother, her little fingers wrapped around Lillian's. Olivia stood at the doorway, arms crossed, watching the room like a general surveying a battlefield. She wasn't used to feeling helpless, so she did what she always did when that feeling crept in. She moved, she planned, she mobilized, she made things happen. By noon, Olivia had arranged for Maya to have temporary housing, a 2-bedroom apartment in one of Hearttech's corporate residences. It wasn't grand, but it was warm. clean, safe. She called in favors from her legal team to fast-track the paperwork. No publicity, no press, just quiet action, the kind that doesn't ask for recognition. She ordered groceries to be delivered to the apartment, stocked with everything a child might like. Fruits, cereal, even those little chocolate milk boxes she remembered from her own childhood. She had a desk delivered, child-sized, with colored pencils, notebooks, a small lamp shaped like a crescent moon. Maya's room, even if only for now. When she returned to the clinic, Maya hadn't moved. Her eyes were fixed on her mother's chest, rising and falling in a rhythm that seemed too fragile to trust. Olivia sat beside her. "They're doing everything they can," she said. Maya nodded slowly. "She's still here," Maya whispered. "I think she knows." Olivia looked at the girl beside her. So small, so still, yet carrying more strength than most adults she knew. That night, Olivia made another call to an old friend, a principal at a local school with a STEM enrichment program. She didn't explain everything, just said one thing: she's got the kind of mind you don't want to waste. By morning, Maya had a spot. Uniforms would be delivered, transportation arranged, books supplied, everything covered. No red tape, no forms, no headlines. Just a child and a classroom, and a door being opened. 2 days later, Olivia sat with Maya on the small balcony outside the clinic suite. They shared a paper bag of beignets. Powdered sugar clung to Maya's fingers, and for the first time, she giggled softly when it dusted her nose. "You ever have these before?" Olivia asked. Maya shook her head. "My mama made sweet things, but not like this," Olivia smiled. "New Orleans does sugar right." Maya looked up. "Do you think she'll sing again?" Olivia didn't answer right away. She looked through the glass door where Lillian lay resting. The monitors beeped steady now. Her color had returned, just a little. "I think she'll have the chance," Olivia said finally. "And if she wants to, yes." Maya nodded, satisfied. Then she pulled something from her backpack, a folded piece of paper, a new drawing. It showed 3 people, one with long braids, one with curly hair and a microphone, and one with a suit and short hair holding their hands. Underneath, in big letters, it said, "My family." Olivia stared at the paper for a long time. Then she folded it carefully, slipped it into her coat pocket, and said, without looking away, "I'm going to keep this. Forever." Maya leaned against her shoulder. "You can. You helped fix the biggest thing." And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, Olivia let herself breathe, deep, full, and completely. Time moved slowly inside the clinic. But something had changed. The silence no longer felt like waiting. It felt like healing. Maya visited her mother every morning before school, always with a small bouquet of wildflowers she picked from the patch outside the fence. She'd place them in a paper cup beside the bed. Then she'd whisper, "Morning, Mama," like she always had, even when Lillian didn't reply. But now, Lillian was beginning to stir. First it was the flicker of her eyelids, then the faint squeeze of a hand. And one afternoon, her lips parted. She didn't speak yet, but her breathing became stronger, more rhythmic, steadier. Maya noticed before anyone else. "She's coming back," she told Olivia one evening. "She hears me, I know she does." Olivia nodded, watching the monitors. They still beeped, but less urgently now, more patiently, like the machines believed in her too. Outside the clinic, the world continued at its usual pace. But for Maya and Olivia, each moment inside that room felt monumental. Maya had started school the week before, and every day she returned with stories. Not complaints, not fears. Stories about a science project with magnets, about a girl named Tasha who wore glitter shoes, about a teacher who called her a curious storm. She liked that. "A curious storm," she repeated, twirling a pencil between her fingers. "I think it means I ask too many questions." Olivia smiled. "It means you're impossible to ignore. On weekends, they visited the city. Olivia took her to the art museum, to the planetarium, to an old bookstore on Royal Street where the clerk taught Maya how to find constellations in an almanac. At night, they read together. Olivia wasn't a natural storyteller, but Maya didn't seem to mind. She'd curl up on the couch, blanket tucked under her chin, and listen as Olivia stumbled through chapters. Sometimes Maya would correct her pronunciation. Other times, she'd fall asleep mid-sentence, and Olivia would just sit there, quiet, present, learning that showing up didn't require perfection, only intention. Back at the clinic, Lillian's recovery was slow, but undeniable. She spoke a few words. Then, full sentences. She began sitting up in bed, asking questions. Where's Maya? What day is it? What song is playing down the hall? The first time she smiled, and truly smiled, Olivia happened to be in the room. Lillian looked at Maya, then at Olivia, and said, "You stayed." Olivia simply nodded. That night, after Maya had gone to bed, Lillian and Olivia sat quietly together. No machines, no doctors, just the hum of the night outside. "She told me everything," Lillian said softly. "She said you helped, without asking for anything. I don't know why you did it." Olivia took a deep breath, then said the truth. "Because she reminded me what it feels like to care before calculating. Because the minute she walked into my office, I remembered my own mother working 2 jobs, singing lullabies through exhaustion. And because you have a daughter who walked into a stranger's life and made her believe again." Lillian's eyes welled. She reached out and took Olivia's hand, not as a favor, not as a plea, but as a thank you. The next morning, Maya drew again. 3 figures this time, standing under a tree with roots that reached into the clouds. She handed it to Olivia with a single word: home. Olivia didn't say anything. She just folded the paper and slid it into her planner, as if it were the most important note she'd ever take. Later that day, a nurse came in with an update. Lillian had gained 3 pounds. Her blood pressure had stabilized, and the physical therapy team believed she could begin light rehabilitation next week. Hope wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a song, a rhythm building, slow and strong. That evening, Olivia brought a small portable speaker to the clinic. She set it near the window and played one of Lillian's old recordings, a scratchy jazz number called Midnight Suite. The room filled with the sound of a younger Lillian, bold, warm, free. Maya closed her eyes and listened. "I remember this," she whispered. She used to hum it while washing dishes. And for the first time in weeks, Lillian hummed along, barely audible, but there, alive, present, and healing. The story could have ended there, but Olivia Hart didn't believe in neat endings, not when the beginning had come through a knock on her office door. Not when the problem wasn't just one family, it was an entire community. One Maya had walked out of. One. Olivia had walked away from long ago, so she went back. Not to hand out checks, not to make speeches, but to listen, to sit at folding tables in community centers, to walk through schools with leaky ceilings and textbooks from another decade, to ask questions that no CEO had ever bothered to ask there before. What do you need? What's in the way? How can I help without taking over? And when the answers came, she did what Maya had taught her. She showed up. HeartTech launched the Maya Initiative. It started small. Scholarships for local students with creative minds and no resources. Paid internships for high schoolers interested in science, music, or both. Weekly. Mentorship circles led by HeartTech employees, many of them from neighborhoods just like Maya's. Then came the bigger moves. A renovated wing at a public elementary school, fully stocked with tablets, lab kits, and books written by Black and brown authors. A mobile health unit that parked outside churches on Sundays. Run by volunteer doctors and nurses, including 2 from the clinic where Lillian had stayed. Word traveled fast, not because of press releases, but because people talked. People who had once been invisible felt seen, and that feeling, It spreads. At a block party celebrating the new school wing, Maya stood on stage beside Olivia. She wore a bright red headband and a white dress covered in little stars. She didn't make a speech. She just held up a drawing, one she had made the night before. It showed a giant heart in the middle of the city. Inside the heart were names: her mother, her teachers, the nurses, her new friends, and Olivia. She called it My Big Family. That image ended up on a mural, painted across the side of the shelter building where Lillian once stayed. Tourists stopped to take photos. Locals stopped to remember. And Olivia? She stopped to feel. She started walking without her driver, visiting places without the press. Sometimes she just sat at the library, listening to kids read aloud. Sometimes she brought beignets to the clinic staff who hadn't stopped working. Her world had widened, but it had also deepened. She no longer wanted to build upward. She wanted to build roots. At the next Heart Tech board meeting, she stood in front of her directors and said, "Our success isn't just what we make. It's who we make room for." Some executives raised eyebrows. Others nodded slowly, but none objected, because the numbers were steady, and the story was stronger than any chart. Behind closed doors, Olivia met with city officials. She proposed tax credits for companies that reinvested in the communities they left behind. She pushed for art in STEM spaces, for funding music programs, for career days that featured more than just suits and ties. She spoke at one school event where a third grader asked, "Do you still have a boss?" Olivia laughed, paused, then said, "Actually, yes. Her name is Maya. She's 8, and she reminds me every day what I forgot." The room clapped, but the boy just nodded, serious. "Cool," he said. "Tell her thanks." That evening, Olivia sat on the steps of her apartment building. Maya was chalking stars on the sidewalk. Lillian sat nearby, reading lyrics aloud from her old notebook, voice stronger with each word. The sky turned purple, the kind of purple that only shows up in New Orleans when music hangs in the air. And for the first time in years, Olivia didn't check her phone, didn't check the market, didn't check her calendar. She just watched Maya draw, watched Lillian smile, and whispered to herself, "This is what building something real looks like. Not metal and glass, but people, hope, and a child who dared to believe someone might listen." Mornings were different now. They didn't begin with spreadsheets or silence. They began with laughter, with oatmeal, with Maya humming off-key while brushing her hair. Lillian had moved into the new apartment just a week before, the same one Olivia had quietly prepared. The walls were painted pale yellow. There were fresh linens on the bed, a calendar on the fridge with hand-drawn hearts marking doctors' visits. And on the nightstand, Lillian's notebook, open, waiting. She had started writing again, not full songs yet, just lines, images, a hum that returned like a long-lost friend. Every afternoon she sat by the window, watching Maya skip down the hallway after school. Sometimes Maya came in bursting with stories. Other times, she came in quiet, tired, but always smiling, because now they had something they hadn't dared to hope for: time. One afternoon, Olivia stopped by unannounced. She brought fresh beignets and a folder of test results. Lillian was in the kitchen humming a new tune. Maya sat at the table coloring. When Olivia walked in, Maya grinned. "You always bring sugar," she said. Olivia laughed. "Sugar is essential to healing." She handed Lillian the folder. The results were good. Very good. The tumor had shrunk. Therapy was working. The worst was behind them. There were still battles ahead, but the path forward was visible now. Lillian exhaled, long, slow, grateful. Then, she looked at Olivia. "I don't know what to say," Olivia shook her head. "You already said it." She looked around the room, at the laughter, the light, the life. "This says it." Later that week, Olivia took Maya to the botanical garden. They walked beneath live oaks and Spanish moss. Maya paused to draw the flowers she saw, a tulip here, a magnolia there, and in the center of the page, 3 stick figures. One tall, one with a ponytail, one with a music note above her head. Above them, she wrote, "Us." Olivia didn't say anything. She didn't need to. That evening, they all had dinner together. Nothing fancy, just pasta, garlic bread, and stories. Maya told a joke so bad, Lillian choked on her drink from laughing. Olivia laughed too, but then she stopped and just watched. Because this was something she didn't realize she'd missed. Not the food, not the comfort, the belonging. The sense of being part of something that didn't come with contracts or expectations. Just presence. At the end of the night, Maya pulled Olivia aside. "Can I show you something?" She opened a drawer and pulled out a drawing. It was a house, with curtains in the windows and flowers in front. 3 figures stood in the doorway. Maya handed it to Olivia and said, "This is what I want." Olivia looked at her, then at the picture. Then, back again. "What's missing?" she asked softly. Maya tapped the roof. "We don't have one yet, but we will." Olivia felt something twist in her chest. Not pain, not pressure, something softer. Hope. That night, after Maya went to bed, Lillian and Olivia sat on the balcony. The sky was full of stars, the kind Maya would probably try to count tomorrow. Lillian looked over and said, "She's safe now." Olivia nodded. "She's more than safe. She's seen." Lillian hesitated, then asked, "And you?" Olivia blinked. It wasn't a question she expected, but she answered honestly. "For the first time in years, I'm not lost in my own success. I'm found in this." Lillian smiled. "You were the only one who didn't walk away. You stayed, and you gave her back her childhood." Olivia swallowed, then whispered, "She gave me back something too. Myself." Later that week, Olivia called her architect. She asked him to draw plans for a real home, one with a porch, a music room, and a garden for Maya's chalk drawings. It wouldn't be ready tomorrow, but it was coming. And when it was done, it would belong to them, all 3 of them. A family, not by blood but by choice, by courage, by the single impossible moment when a little girl walked into an office and refused to be unseen. And from that moment on, everything began again. The seasons in New Orleans don't always announce themselves. Sometimes you feel them in the music, sometimes in the light, and sometimes in a quiet shift inside your chest. That's how it felt the day Olivia Hart stepped into the finished house, the real one, the one Maya had drawn months earlier. It had a wide porch with hanging plants, kitchen painted the color of sunrise, and 3 sets of rain boots by the door. Maya was already decorating her room. Posters of stars, books stacked on the floor. A small telescope pointed out the window. Lillian stood in the living room, one hand on the piano Olivia had placed by the window. "I haven't played in years," she said. Olivia smiled. "Maybe now's the time." And so she did. The notes were rough at first, then smoother, then full. Maya danced barefoot in the hallway. She was 10 now, taller, still fierce, still kind, the kind of kid who reminded everyone who met her that softness is its own kind of strength. Olivia joined them at the table that evening. There were candles, takeout boxes, and the easy rhythm of a life rebuilt. Lillian turned to Olivia and asked, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Maya hadn't come to your office?" Olivia nodded. "All the time. I would have missed this home, this feeling." She looked at Maya, who was carefully licking icing off a cupcake. "I would have missed her." Later that night, Maya handed Olivia a folded piece of paper. Not a drawing this time, but a letter, written in careful cursive. It read, "Dear Miss Olivia, I didn't know what would happen when I walked into your building. I just knew I had to try. You didn't give me a job that day. You gave me a chance. You didn't fix everything, but you made everything worth fixing. Thank you for being someone who stays. Love, Maya." Olivia read it twice, then a third time. She didn't cry, but her hands trembled. She folded it carefully and placed it beside the first drawing Maya ever gave her. Later, as the stars came out, they all sat outside on the porch. Maya leaned against Lillian's shoulder. Lillian leaned into Olivia, and Olivia sat still, completely still. The sky above them was full of things unseen, but also things known, things felt, things held. The next morning, Olivia woke early. She made cocoa, packed Maya's lunch, and watched her walk to the school bus, backpack bouncing, head held high. Before the bus pulled away, Maya turned, cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted, "Love you!" Lillian laughed from the kitchen. Olivia waved, her chest tight. "I love you too," she whispered, and meant it every syllable. Because this was the life she never planned for, but the one that made her real, the one that made her human again. That week, Olivia turned down 2 awards. She declined 3 interviews, and instead, she accepted a dinner invitation from a neighbor down the block. She spent her evenings helping Maya with science fair ideas, and sometimes, she just sat by the window listening to Lillian sing. Not for crowds, not for applause, but for joy, for healing, for the sheer fact that she still could. The world outside kept spinning, meetings, markets, momentum, but inside that house, time softened, and every moment felt like a promise kept. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, Maya asked, "Do you think it'll always stay this good?" Olivia didn't pretend. She didn't offer false hope. She just took Maya's hand and said, "It'll change, but I'm not going anywhere. We'll change with it." Maya nodded, content, because sometimes a promise is louder than the world, and when it's kept, it becomes a story, one worth telling again and again, about a girl who walked into an office with a resume and walked out with a family, about a CEO who thought she had everything, until she found what really mattered, not success, not status, but presence and the courage to stay. She didn't come for pity. She came with purpose. She came with hope. And in doing so, Maya reminded the world, and one very powerful woman, what real strength looks like, not in boardrooms, not in balance sheets, but in bold hearts, tiny footsteps, and unshakable love. This isn't just a happy ending. It's a beginning, because when one child dares to ask for help, and someone powerful dares to say yes, it doesn't just change one life, it changes the definition of leadership. So if this story moved you, don't just feel it. Live it. Show up. Stay. Be someone's yes when the world tells them no. And if you've ever doubted that kindness can still break through cold glass walls, let Maya's story be your proof, because sometimes the most human thing we can do is simply not walk away.